Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1 for the Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan.
And I'm Thiruni Karunaratna. We start off with a look at tonight's top stories.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Ranil announces new relief measures to lift vehicle import restrictions in February. Income tax threshold to be revised in April.
Ada අපි කැබිනට් එකෙන් තීරණය කරා බදු බර අඩු කරන්න ඕන කියලා. පේ ටැක්ස් එක තියන අයගේ 23 ඉඳලා 15 වෙනකන් අඩු කරනවා අපි. රාජ්‍ය සේවකයාගේ පඩිය 24කින් වැඩි කරනවා කියලා කිව්වා. පෝර සානාධාරය රුපියල් 4000කට අඩු කරලා තියෙනවා පෝර ලැබෙන ආකාරයට සානාධාරයත් එක්ක.
SJB accuses MPP of spreading violence. MPP rejects false allegations. Controller General of Immigration faces contempt charges for ignoring court order on e-visa system. Who will former President Maithripala Sirisena's support?
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
On to those stories in detail. The Cabinet of Ministers has announced that import restrictions on all vehicles will be lifted starting February next year. The personal income tax threshold will also be revised effective April next year.
These updates were shared with the public at a rally held today in Puttlam, organised in support of independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe.
As part of a series of public rallies across Sri Lanka, another rally in support of independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe was held today in Puttlam.
Today we decided on two things. Since the country's foreign reserves have strengthened, we have decided to lift the ban and allow import of vehicles back into Sri Lanka. For taxpayers, the basic threshold was 500,000, but now we have raised each of those thresholds to 720,000 and beyond. This is a big step we took today. So I'm asking you if you're ready to entrust the Malimawa team with your future. Are you ready to let the rupee depreciate? They wanted to hold a debate with me. But tell me first, is your policy an export-oriented economy or an import-oriented economy? It has been 3 days now, and they are still unresponsive. If you are ready, come forward. That is what I'm asking. I met a few young people. Some support me, while others support the Malimawa. I asked them why they do so, and they said, we want to give them a chance. I asked them if they were willing to give their future a chance. They replied with a no. They said we can't go back to the old situation. So I said that if you give these people a chance, you're actually giving a chance to your future. Your future becomes uncertain. I would like to say that on the 21st of September, if you don't vote for the gas cylinder itself will become unavailable, and the value of the rupee will completely collapse.
කතරේ ගහන්න කියලා මං කියන්න කැමතියි. ඒක නැති වුණොත් ගෑස් සිලින්ඩර්ත් නැති වෙනවා. රුපියලේ වටිනාකමත් සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම බාල්දු වෙනවා.
තව අවුරුදු 5ක් මෙතුමව තියාගෙන රට සුවපත් කරන්නට ඕන.
We need to stand by him for another 5 years to restore the country. Once the country is rebuilt, we can return to our policies. Today the cabinet decided that we need to reduce the tax burden. We are lowering the payee tax rate from 23% to 15%. We have also decided to increase state employees' salaries by 24%. Fertilizer subsidies have been reduced to 4,000 rupees, along with the distribution of fertilizer. All of this is possible because the president was able to triple the state revenue in 2022 by effectively managing the finances.
Independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasized the direct link between GDP growth and increased salaries, advocating for a shift towards an export-oriented economy as the primary solution. He outlined his vision for transforming Sri Lanka's economy through a focus on exports, modernization and sustainable growth.
If our GDP increases, your salaries increase. So how do we do that? The first is we must move towards an export-oriented economy. There's no other way out. So everyone has to look at exports. The whole medical service should be one in which, while we cater to our people, a surplus is earned by catering outside to other patients. That's why I want to see a good health service develop both for our people and for out. Otherwise, all these issues can never be resolved with the internal, the way the GDP develops and up. We have to go for about 7-8% growth over a period of time. And we are looking at new sectors. I'm looking at modernizing agriculture, bringing smart agriculture, which also means that the rural poverty will cease. People will be more prosperous. We have to bring the supply network, the cold stores, the whole thing, but it should be for exports. If the global population is going to increase from 7 to 9 billion, why don't we look at feeding 20 million? It's just 1%. The world will need food. It will keep needing food. And those who produce it, and produce it at a very competitive rate. The shortest one, while we do this, and there we have about another 300,000 acres that can be opened out. While we do this, we have to double the number of tourists coming in and increase earning per head from $150 to $400. That will in the short term give a big boost to the economy. While we get our investment zones ready, the digital economy, the sustainable energy, all those are there. Think anew and go ahead. So if you make your economy an export-oriented economy, if you have a digital economy, a green economy, knowledge-based economy, and you are modernizing your agriculture sector, just imagine the changes you will have in this country. It's far-reaching changes. Combined with that, we will stabilize the rupee, reduce, control inflation, and then see your incomes grow.
At the Doctors for a Healthy Future Forum, doctors voiced concerns about restoring their professional status to be on par with the judiciary, with financial benefits to follow economic recovery. President Wickremesinghe assured that these matters are under consideration, noting that the key decision is whether to introduce gradual reforms or overhaul the structure immediately.
The status is something we are going into, but I thought monetary issues are also tied up with status. So that's another issue that comes up. There's also claims by some of the other branches also. So we have become one full unified system, unlike other countries where doctors, engineers were treated and others were all treated separately. We brought the whole government service together. This is the issue that we have. But certainly the matters are receiving attention, I would say. The question is whether you put gradual reforms or you change the structure immediately, but there can be an outcry on that. So we'll have to have some rounds of discussions with all of you. But there have also been other claims by others, I must say.
Sajith Premadasa, the presidential candidate from the Samagi Jana Balawege, urged the public to vote without fear for a new era that benefits the common man.
Another rally, part of the series of public rallies organized by the Samagi Jana Balawege in support of the party's presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa, was held in Debravawa.
ජයවර්ධනපුර විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය ප්‍රචණ්ඩත්වය නිසා භීෂණය නිසා වසාදමලා තවත් බහුජන සංවිධාන සාකච්ඡා පවත්වනකොට ම්ලේච්ඡ මැර ප්‍රහාර එල්ල කරලා මං අහන්න කැමති මේ රටේ කතා කරන්න අයිතියක් නැද්ද? Taman කැමති දේශපාලනයක් කරන්න අයිතියක්.
The University of Sri Javardhanapura was closed due to violence and threats. During discussions with various organizations, they said that there were brutal attacks. I want to ask if the people of this country have no right to speak or to engage in politics of their choice. I want to emphasize that this creation of a vile fascist ideology, this violence, and this thuggery, does the public of this country support this? I urge you all to go to the polling booths on election day without fear and without any doubts. Cast your vote for an era that serves the common man. We will protect and safeguard you from this violence, thuggery, brutality and rage. Do not be afraid. What's happening now? The group that inflicted arson and the gang that bankrupted it have joined forces. Ranil and Anura are now together. They are consuming political power together while taking advantage of the situation. Why are they together? They are together to make deals and gain power. I'm against these deals. We are providing 5,000 rupees worth of fertilizer per kilogram of paddy. They oppose this. We are providing land and housing to people without homes. They oppose this. We are providing fuel subsidies to transport workers and fishermen. They even oppose this. They are against efforts to eradicate poverty. This is why they are together. They oppose the establishment of production industries. They oppose upgrading the school system. Everyone knows that after the 21st, Sajith Premadasa will open up a bright future to the people who suffered due to power cuts. They oppose this. Ranil and Anura are against it. They oppose supporting farmers. I want to tell our beloved farmers that we will definitely work to revive small, medium and large-scale irrigation industries in this district. If anyone asks how this will be done, I want to remind you that even without power, we have previously revitalized the system. We accomplished all this without state provisions.
කවුරුහරි කියනවා නම් ඕවා කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා මම ඔබට මතක් කරන්න කැමතියි. බලයක් නැතුව මම ඉන්ධන ටික ලබා දීලා පහුගිය කාලේ දකුණු ඇල සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ලුණුගම් වෙහෙර දකුණු ඇල බලයක් නැතුව අපි පුනරුත්ථාපනයට ලක් කරා. ඒ ඔක්කොම කලේ රාජ්‍ය ප්‍රතිපාදන නැතුව.
Presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, said that the NPP aims to eradicate rural poverty, which has become a great tragedy.
A public rally in support of the National People's Power's presidential candidate, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, was held in Ampara today.
Rural poverty has become a great tragedy for our people. We assure you, step by step, we will remove poverty from these villages. This is the hope of the National People's Power. It's not just the rulers, but the people who deserve a better life. For the first time in Sri Lanka, a government will be formed that gives the people genuine hope for the future. Today, after the harvest is gathered and sold, what happens next? All the money goes to paying off debts. You repay the shop where you bought this fertilizer. You settle the debt with the person who plowed the field. You pay back the shop where the pesticides were purchased and the store where the food and drinks were bought on credit. By the time you pay for the machine, there's not a single cent left in your hand. Therefore, the farmers of our country should no longer have to live under the burden of debt. We will free the farmers from the cycle of debt and turn agriculture into a profitable business. We need to increase food production in our country and ensure that not an inch of land remains empty and prepare to cultivate for the 3 seasons. We will restore the tank system. Additionally, I will distribute land to the children of farming families in Ampara for cultivation. I saw Sajith Premadasa talking about different prices for Nadu and Kakulu rice. What is he saying? Kakulu is essentially made by threshing raw Nadu rice. I also heard Ranil Wickramasinghe mention in Yapahua that he plans to distribute Bandi fertilizer for free. However, Bandi fertilizer is needed during the Maha season, which hasn't started yet, and is typically required again around January or February. By then, Ranil will likely be out of office. The main issue we face today is that the threat of wild elephants in these provinces. Sajith Premadasa claims to have a better solution for this problem than we do, even mentioning an elephant mantra in a recent speech. According to him, the mantra can instantly stop elephants. He claims that he will prove it in Kalawava. Instead of relying on such claims, we need a scientific approach. The National People's Power government is committed to providing a permanent solution to the human-elephant conflict. Let's work together to build this country. This upcoming election is our chance to unite and make that happen.
Another rally, part of the series of rallies held in support for the SLPP presidential candidate Namal Rajapaksa, was held at the Napan Auditorium in Pathadumbara.
Some people who do not even discuss of the human-elephant conflict also mentions the tusker carrying the sacred tooth relic, arguing against harming animals. On the other hand, they stress that the need to conserve our culture. When making decisions, we must consider their impact on our cultural heritage. We are building a developed country that will center around its culture. By doing so, we can protect everyone, from farmers to laborers. We are committed to creating a developed nation for future generations, and we are determined to make it the most advanced country in Asia. We have the capacity and the plan to harness the best aspects of the modern world. Our goal is to position Sri Lanka as a key player in the $5 trillion economy through AI technology. We also aim to engage in crypto and forex trading and become integral to international transactions worth trillions through the port city. Vote for the Pohot tour on the 21st to make this country the most developed country in Asia within the next 10 years.
Independent presidential candidate and Tamil common candidate P. Ariyanethan expressed these views at a media briefing in Jaffna today.
Before the election on the 21st of September, anonymous statements might be circulated under my name. Alternatively, social media might be used to circulate statements using my name, Pakiselvam Ariyanethan, that I am supporting another leading candidate. Otherwise, there might be propaganda suggesting that I have withdrawn from the election. I urge the public not to be misled by such false propaganda. I am continuously clarifying this matter. It is possible for someone to use my likeness to create and disseminate such information, especially using AI to generate content that appears to be me speaking. Technology has advanced to that extent today. Therefore, I urge the media and the public to remain vigilant.
The Samagi Jana Balawege has accused the National People's Power of resorting to violence, unable to accept Sajid Premadasa's growing success. In response, the National People's Power dismissed the claims as baseless, emphasizing that it is an unsuccessful attempt to hinder their victory through false accusations.
Several parliamentarians of the Samagi Jana Balawege attended a media briefing today and expressed their views on this matter.
Sajid Premadasa mahatmage labana 21 wenda ජයග්‍රහණය ඉවසන්න බැරි මේ රටේ ත්‍රස්තවාදයට පුරුදු කල්ලි මේ රටේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදයට අද විශාල බලපෑමක් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඊයේ වන විට මේ රටේ පහර දීම්
Unable to accept Sajid Premadasa's victory on the 21st, gangs notorious for terrorism in the country have severely undermined its democracy. As of yesterday, a series of terrorist acts have begun. Thugs associated with the JVP and NPP reportedly attacked and chased away attendees of the Patriotic National Front's meeting at the National Library. These JVP groups have disrupted independent student movements at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura and the Peratugami and beaten them until they bled. In another incident, a person was injured after being struck with a helmet for refusing to vote. Some of our party offices in the Hiriyala, Dambulla and Avisaville electorates were set on fire by these groups. It seems that those who once tried to seize power through armed forces, destroying the democratic rights of this nation, are now reviving terrorism in response to their impending defeat. There may be some controversial points, as not all members of the youth agree on everything. However, in our developing country, violence should never be an option. We must engage in discussions and respectfully exchange our views instead. We are receiving reports that this unrest may spread beyond Jawaharlal University to other universities as well. The issue here is expressing such opinions is being suppressed here. We saw the incident at the event of JVP Tri-Army Force. He is even threatening the generals. We have to understand that this is not a dictatorial country. We are a democratic country. If someone attempts to destroy democracy or resorts to violence to do so, we do not want violence. We stand by the power of the ballot. Let's safeguard democracy through the polls. We will not succumb to violence, nor will we resort to it.
තිරෙන් ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදයේ බේරගමු. ප්‍රචණ්ඩත්වයට යට වෙන්න අපි සූදානම් නැහැ. නමුත් අපි ප්‍රචණ්ඩත්වය පාවිච්චි කරන්නේත් නැහැ.
The Samagi Buddhi Mandapa convened a media briefing today and shared views on this.
Regarding the unrest at the university grounds, both the Janata Vimukti Peramana operating under the name National People's Power and the National People's Power operating under the name Janata Vimukti Peramana should immediately instruct their members to halt this violent agenda. Do the members of the Central Committee, including Anrukumara Disanayaka, possess the leadership and integrity to take such decisive action?
අභිමානය සහ මුලින්ම විනාශ වෙන බව අපි වගකීමකින් කියන්නට ලෑස්ති. තරුණේනි දේශේ තරුණේනි අවදි වෙයව් කියන පණිවිඩය අපි දෙනවා. මුළු සමාජයේම හිතුවා ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණ යම්කිසි.
The entire society had hoped that the Janata Vimukti Peramuna was making a genuine transformation. Initially it seemed as though they had indeed changed. However, their true nature is now becoming evident. Recently, it is clear that these JVP student groups are stifling any attempts by students to express their opinions independently and openly. As a result, the damage to this country is graduates emerging from these institutions are essentially becoming slaves. Because of this, universities are not producing individuals who can think freely and independently.
වෙන උපාධිධාරියා එළියට එන උපාධිධාරියා ඇත්තටම වහලෙක් හැටියට තමයි එන්නේ මොකද ස්වාධීනව හිතන්න පුළුවන් ස්වාධීන චින්තනයක් තියෙන පුද්ගලයෙක් නෙමෙයි විශ්වවිද්‍යාල වලින් බිහි වෙන්නේ.
Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa, National Executive Member of the National People's Power, responded to the allegations at the media briefing held today.
They
are trying to use their platform to push their own agendas. They're creating fake incidents of violence before the election and blaming us. They've edited recordings of people associated with us, cutting off and adding words to make it seem like we are involved in violence. We've taken legal action against this and won't allow it to continue. They're also using events like the National Library incident and student conflicts at the University of Sri Jawaharlal to frame us. But we have no connection to these incidents. We believe this is a ploy by opposing groups, especially those linked to Sajid Premadasa. These are poorly planned attempts to mislead the public. We expect more of these incidents in the coming days. We've also heard reports of people getting hurt in accidents and having their voices manipulated. They're accusing us of attacking them because they refused to vote for the Malimawa. We made our stance on religion clear and affirmed that we support constitutional principles. The attempts to distort public opinion using violence and religion are dishonest and have been rejected by the people.
National People's Power MP Dr. Harini Amarasuriya expressed these views at a public rally.
Followers of Ranil Wickremesinghe claim that the country will fall apart after the 22nd of September. They have been building the country for so long, so if it collapses within 24 hours after it was built, what was the purpose of this construction? Is everything dependent on one leader? What has he been doing for so long? On the other hand, the Samagi Jana Balavegi is trying to instill fear by suggesting that there will be unrest and economic collapse after the 21st of September. What has happened for so long? Can our economic collapse further? Can violence increase further? They're acting with a fear that the Malimawa will change things and expose their incompetence. There are more rumors circulating that riots will occur after the Malimawa wins. We represent a political approach that is not based on revenge. The political group that will lose on the 21st of September is the one that practices revenge politics. We are all striving to end that political culture. When Anrukumara Disanayaka becomes the 9th executive president of this country on the 22nd of September. He will take an oath as the president of all citizens. We represent a new political culture, a civilized political culture that does not involve making others our enemies and trying to destroy them.
ශිෂ්ට සම්පන්න දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතිය අනේකාව අපේ හතුරා කරගෙන ඔහු විනාශ කරන දේශපාලනයක් නෙවෙයි.
Anurukumara Dissanayake, the presidential candidate from the National People's Power, emphasized today in Monragala that there should be no room for violence.
Initially, our supporters were a mere 3%, making victory seem almost impossible. Then the campaign began, and after about 2 weeks, the opposition started claiming that our success would lead to turmoil and violence. Recently, they've even said that if we win, we won't last 6 months. This skepticism is nothing new. It all began with the belief that we had no chance of winning. But now as the polls start to come in, they predict that if we succeed, we won't survive for 6 months. How engaged and concerned is the public about this situation? How much effort, determination and sacrifice have we invested to secure this victory? We are committed to achieving change, and we won't be deteriorated in just 6 months. We continue to face doubts and potential attempts to create small-scale conflicts. Therefore, we urge the high-ranking officers of the police to ensure peace and prevent any disruptions, fulfilling their duties responsibility. We also ask our supporters to refrain from any form of violence or abusive language. We need to uphold democratic values and respect everyone's right to support their preferred candidate or party. Once the election is over, we will form the government and begin by dissolving parliament. Ranil will be sent home following the presidential election, and Shashindra will be sent home after the general election. Over 150 current MPs will be removed in the next general election. Look at the current MPs, some bringing chili powder, others bringing knives. The Speaker has even questioned who brought the mangoes. Is this what Parliament has become? On the 22nd, we will dissolve Parliament and send them home.
දැන් කියලා තියෙන්නේ එතකොට ජනාධිපති ඡන්දේ රනිල් ගෙදර පාර්ලිමේන්තු ඡන්දේ සසේන්ද්‍ර ගෙදර ඔය පාර්ලිමේන්තු ඉන්නේ 150කට වඩා වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් ඊළඟ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මැතිවරණදි ගෙදර නැද්ද ඉන්න කට්ටිය ගත්තාම එක දවසක් එක්කෙනෙක් මිරිස් කුඩු ගෙනල්ලා තව කෙනෙක් පිහියක් ගෙනල්ලා කතානායකතුමා අහලා තියෙන අඹ ගෙනාවේ කවුද කියලා. ඇයි ඉතින් අඹ කන්න කියලා. මේ හිතන්න මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුද මේවා. 22 වෙනිදා වෙනකොට අපි පාර්ලිමේන්තු ඉසුරුව හැරලා දෙන්නම්. ඡන්ද දිනේ දවසේ ඒගොල්ලෝ ගෙදර යවන්න.
Journalists questioned former Minister Manushanane Akkara about whether there have been any discussions regarding a possible alliance between the Samagi Janabalabega and Ranil Wickramasinghe's faction. He expressed these views during a media briefing held in Colombo today.
Numerous parties have proposed that these two factions should join forces and collaborate. We would like to emphasize that President Ranil Wickramasinghe is open to work with any party.
Wanted, a leader, a Sri Lankan with the courage to lead a resplendent nation and her people into an exciting future. A Sri Lankan with intelligence and grace. A leader with a clean heart and a clean record. A leader in love with Sri Lanka. A leader this nation deserves. The presidential election 2024. Sri Lanka, you decide. News First, we report.
The Supreme Court has ordered that formal charges be filed against the Controller General of Immigration and Immigration by September 25, 2024 due to the Controller General's failure to comply with court orders. The court's order follows the issuance of an interim injunction on August 2nd, which rendered the government's decision to issue visas under the e-visa system ineffective. The court reviewed several petitions from members of Parliament, partly Shampika Ranawaka, Rauf Hakim and M.A. Sumantiran.
Although the court had previously issued an interim injunction directing the Controller General of Immigration and Immigration to revert to the old visa issuance system, the Controller General had deliberately ignored this order for over a month. Therefore, the petitioners, partly Champika Ranawaka, Rauf Hakim and M.A. Sumantiran, have requested the court to take appropriate legal action against him. The petitions were reviewed by the bench comprising Justices Preeti Padman Surasena, Kumuduni Wickramasinghe and Achala Vengapulli. During the proceedings, the petitioners were present and Justice Vengapuli instructed the Controller General of Immigration and Immigration to appear in court. However, the Controller General was reported to be abroad. Additional Solicitor General Viveka Sirivardhana informed the court on behalf of the respondents. 3 officials from the Department of Immigration and Immigration appeared in court and provided statements. They said that the Controller General had not issued any instructions to comply with the Supreme Court's orders. The court concluded that the Controller General had deliberately ignored the court's orders. Therefore, the bench has ordered the petitioners to file formal charges against the Controller General for contempt of court by the 25th of September. Additionally, the court has directed that the Controller General must personally appear before the court on the 25th of September.
Colombo High Court Judge Sujiva Nissanka informed today that defendants of the Bharatha Lakshman murder case, former parliamentarian Duminda Silva and Chaminda Ravi Jainath, have been acquitted of the 17th charge of this case. This charge pertained to the illegal possession of firearms, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy in connection with the murder.
According to a Supreme Court judgment issued on the 11th of October 2018, the High Court declared that the life imprisonment sentence handed down to R. Duminda Silva and others for the 17th charge pertained to the illegal possession of firearms, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy in connection with the murder is null and void. R. Duminda Silva, who is receiving treatment at the Valikada Prison Hospital, was not presented to the court. However, a medical report regarding his health condition was submitted to the court by the prison officials. After considering facts presented, the judge instructed that the Supreme Court ruling be communicated to the defendant, R. Duminda Silva. Attorney Ravindra De Silva appeared on behalf of the prosecution.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena expressed his views to the media after a program this morning.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා දවස් 8යි සෑහෙන නිහඬ වෙලානේ. ඔව් ජනාධිපති ඡන්දේ 30යි තියෙන දවසට ඉතින්. අය මෙච්චර නිහඬ? මමද? නිහඬ වීම අර දන්නවනේ මේ මහමූද නිහඬ වුණාම ඒ නිහඬ වීම එක විශාල සුළි එනවයි කියලා හිතන්නේ. ඒක නිසා මගේ නිහඬ වීමත් එහෙම තමයි. දුස්මන්ත මිත්‍රපාල මහත්තයා ඔබතුමාට දුස්තරම් කරා නේද? ඇයි වෙන ඔබතුමාට? නෑ මම කවුරුත් එක්ක අමනාප නැහැ. දැන් ඔබතුමා තනි වෙලා නේද? නෑ මම තනි වෙලත් නෑ කවුරුත් මට එහෙම කරලත් නෑ. මට කිසිම තරහකාරයෙක් නෑ. මම කවුරුත් එක්ක තරහත් නෑ. මේක ඔබ විජේදාස රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාට උදව් කරන්නේ නැද්ද? කාටද උදව් කරන්නේ? එයාගේ කාණ්ඩ ඒක. මේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා කාටද උදව් කරන්නේ?
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Fox Candy, your haven for unforgettable experiences.
Welcome back to Primetime News. State Minister of Finance Shehant Semasinghe has said that the current economic stability, which has been achieved with the support of the International Monetary Fund, can only be sustained under the leadership of the current President, Ranil Wickremesinghe. Now, he expressed these views at a media briefing today in Anuradhapura.
The International Monetary Fund has recently issued a clear statement. Successful completion of this review is essential for securing the fourth tranche of funding. Additionally, if the agreed upon parameters with the IMF and our creditors remain unchanged, we can continue with the program. Bloomberg reports that the country's political instability is affecting its economic performance, leading to setbacks of deterioration. We have completed the restructuring of foreign debt and are now in the final stage of restructuring commercial debt. During this final stage, there have been discussions about potentially delaying payments to commercial debt holders if certain groups come into power. Therefore, only President Ranil Wickremesinghe can manage the economy effectively and with the necessary understanding. The JVP plans to govern the country through force. They have clearly said that if they come into power, they will not make payments to bondholders upon maturity. The IMF will provide loans as needed, but if the JVP comes to power, they will handle the situation in their own way. Challenging the international community and acting unilaterally is not feasible. It is crucial for Sri Lanka's banking and financial markets to stabilize alongside international financial markets. However, the actions of the JVP seem to be aimed at undermining this stability, which has consistently resulted in economic decline.
The National People's Power responded to this today.
ජාත්‍යන්තර බැඳුම්කර ස්වෛරී බැඳුම්කර සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඒ ණය හිමියෝ කරපු සාකච්ඡාවලදී අපි ඉදිරියේදී
In discussions with creditors about international and sovereign bonds, a Bloomberg report was presented, distorting the argument that further review discussions with the IMF are necessary. The report addresses some technical matters, noting that it is normal for bondholders to experience risks in any debt market or equity market, especially during election periods. Even in previous presidential and general elections, Sri Lanka's share market experienced similar fluctuations over a 14-day period. Although attempts are being made to exaggerate the situation, the reality is that there is only a small possibility. Sri Lanka's international sovereign bonds have been sold at a low cost in the secondary market in Singapore earlier for $20, $30 to $40, and a large amount was not sold in it. The price has decreased by 3 US cents from $49. However, local news channels are portraying this 3-cent drop as a major problem. Bloomberg reports indicate that this decline suggests a downward trend, even if this is accurate. Our media is exaggerating this situation and predicting a major crash. They claim that if we come into power, there will be a breakdown and the IMF program will be halted. This portrayal is a distortion, suggesting that there is no possibility of effectively governing the country. We must prove that this is not the case. A bond market decline of 3 cents is being portrayed as a dangerous sign of the emergence of a national people's power government. However, such a small decrease of 1 or 2 cents is not unusual and can happen. A 10-cent drop in a dollar value is considered a normal fluctuation. Regarding the IMF program, we clearly have stated our position. An IMF agreement has been reached and we are working on a proper approach to prevent unnecessary pressure on the common people while adhering to the agreement. Additionally, the IMF has emphasized the importance of good governance. The situation will improve once we establish good governance, demonstrating our capability rather than merely adhering to the ineffective laws. By effectively implementing this program, we can gain support from the IMF and enhance our social safety net. This approach has been clearly communicated and the IMF accepted it in June. A new report was presented yesterday, confirming that the next review or any announcement regarding the IMF agreement will occur after the new government is in place.
One of the world's leading economic websites, Bloomberg, is reporting that Sri Lanka's private creditors and the country's government officials are meeting for new talks this week.
Sri Lanka's private creditors and the country's government officials are holding a third round of talks this week to agree on the restructuring of $12.6 billion in defaulted bonds. According to Bloomberg, this new round of negotiations, the first since creditors and the government reached a preliminary agreement on a debt rework in early July, also marks the third time bondholders have gone restricted or prevented from trading the securities while talks are ongoing. The creditor group holds about 50% of the outstanding overseas bonds and includes Amundi SA, BlackRock Incorporated and T. Rowe Price. The committee is represented by its legal advisor White & Case LLP and its financial advisor Rothschild & Co. The government is seeking to reach a final agreement on the debt before the country's presidential election set for the 21st of September. The July deal with private bondholders envisaged a 28% nominal reduction in the bond's principal and the issuance of so-called macro-linked bonds whose payouts are linked to economic growth. The agreement needs the backing of the International Monetary Fund and the country's bilateral creditors such as China and France. Sri Lanka bonds due in 2030 trade for around 51.6 cents on the dollar, according to indicative pricing compiled by Bloomberg.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
මාතලේ සේනාගම කියන්නේ දුෂ්කර කම්මානයක්. ඔවුන්ගේ ජීවනෝපාය කෘෂිකර්මාන්තය සහ කුලී වැඩයි. මේ ගමේ වැසියෝ කන්න තුනම වගා කරලා රටට බත සැපියුවත් ඔවුන්ට බොන්න පිරිසිදු ජලය නැහැ. ගම්මැද්ද ඔවුන් සොයාගියා. ගම්මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පවුර.
Sri Lanka Post honoured the visionary founder of the Hettigoda Group, the late Sahasrabhishek Vaideshuri Deshabandhu Dr. Victor Hettigoda, with a commemorative stamp.
The commemorative stamp is a visual tribute to the late Sahasrabhiseka Vaidyashuri Deshabandhu Dr. Victor Hettigoda's life and work, highlighting his dedication to Ayurveda and its global impact. The design features elements that represent his legacy, such as the Siddhalepa balm, a symbol of his pioneering efforts.
She used to do everything, doing groundwork and the background work to commemorate her father.
The launch event was attended by government officials, business leaders and members of the medical community.
A media conference on transactional prospects through learning Cambridge English was held in Negombo yesterday.
The media conference was titled Transactional Prospects Through Learning Cambridge English with ISO 9001-2015 Standards Integration. Exams Director of British Council Sri Lanka, Dominic Hodson, and Business Development Manager of British Council Sri Lanka, Nishani Pereira, were the guest speakers of the conference.
English is the most commonly used language in international study, business and travel. International universities generally have minimum English requirements, assessed through tests or interviews. Migration authorities and employers have similar requirements, a proof of English. These minimum standards are useful and they're guidelines, but I'd encourage people to aim a lot higher than those minimum standards. If you want to get the maximum benefit and fullest experience when you study or work abroad, you need advanced proficiency in English. You need greater confidence in using English and an agility in using that language.
The event was followed by a panel discussion.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1.
Stay tuned for a special episode of Face the Nation coming up right after the news tonight, where we dive into the NPP's manifesto with their Economic Council members, Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma, Professor Anil Jayantha and Professor Janak Kumara Singha.
Thank you for watching. Good night.